Thank you for joining us. I'm Joe Dorri, and Phil Zimbardo and I have a very special presentation for you titled How to Support Mental Health in College Success, hosted by Sai Kai, the International Honor Society in Psychology. We'd like to provide an overview of today's presentation. We'll be sharing our personal journeys through college and life with the highlight on mental health. Next, we'll provide our solution to the mental health challenges of students, namely our nonprofit, followed by an overview of our mental health and social support tool with a demonstration. Then you'll have the opportunity to use the tool and we'll take your questions. Next, we'll provide participants with opportunities to support the mental health of all people in and outside of college. Finally, we'd like to note that parts of the content in today's presentation may be uncomfortable for some participants, covering topics of self-harm and psychological distress. So please feel free to step away and take care of yourself. Thank you. So I have a very great pleasure and honor of introducing a legend in the field of psychology. Dr. Philip Zimbardo, PhD, is considered the voice and face of contemporary American psychology as a result of his highly acclaimed PBS series Discovering Psychology, which is still used to today. Philip Zimbardo is Professor Emeritus of Psychology at Stanford University and has served as president for both the American Psychological Association and the Western Psychological Association. He is also the founder of the Heroic Imagination Project and the author of several books and hundreds of articles. Also, Dr. Zimbardo initiated the Sai Kai chapter at Stanford University and served as its advisor. So I'm Joe Dorri, the founder and president of the Good Student nonprofit. I'm also a psychology instructor at UCLA, a mentee to Phil Zimbardo and Noam Chomsky, recognized by the California State Legislature for excellence in academics, leadership, and service, and a couple other things highlighted on the screen. So to kick things off, Dr. Z, will you share a bit about your personal journey with us, please?
I lived in the Lower East Side of New York City, in the Bronx. We were impoverished, and my family was uneducated Sicilians. But I loved school. I couldn't get enough of it. And then obviously I went to all public schools. And I remember the teachers, I was in love with all my teachers, PS 25, PS 52, Stuyvesant High School, Monroe High School, Brooklyn College, and then finally Yale University. And I just loved school and learning. School was so organized where everything in my, not only family, but the whole area was full with crime and disorganization. And I loved learning new things. I was always at wonder that you could go to a library and they would give you 4 books that you could read for a month, and then you could trade them in for 4 more. So I was an A student. Obviously, I graduated summa cum laude, and when I got to Yale, so the first picture is me as a 3-year-old little kid. It's the only picture of my childhood. My family was so poor they couldn't own a camera to take a picture. So I have no pictures before that and none after that till I'm about 8. The second one was when I was at Yale. Although I applied in social psychology, the only available position was with a professor named K.C. Montgomery, who was running rats, doing research on exploratory drive. And there I am, and I am the rat keeper in my white lab coat. Sadly, my advisor developed mental illness, and during that year committed suicide. So that's why our program today is very important that Joe Dorri has organized. After I earned my PhD at Yale, and there I'm standing with my sister Vera, I went to Stanford University, where I taught for about 40 years or more. And among the other things I'm proud of, I was a frequent TED speaker. Ted Roma, TED United States. And one of the talks I gave called The Psychology of Evil, which combined my early work on the Stanford Prison Study, which was in 1971, with the start of my new programs on creating everyday heroes. And it was very well received. 1 million people have viewed it, or more maybe.
Yeah, I see the numbers about almost 8 million views
8
there.
million. Whoa, that's a lot of millions.
Some hot stuff there. Phil, this is your magical year, isn't it? Isn't that right?
Yeah, on March 23rd, 2023, I will be 90 years old. So that's kind of magical. I'm happy to have survived this long because, as I said, everybody in my family died very young. My mother, father, all in their 60s. But the problem was they all smoked. And even my sister, if you smoke, and my brother George, who also died recently of lung cancer, if you smoke, you die. So I'm looking forward to a Zim extravaganza, which is going to be held in San Francisco, actually in the middle of March 15th on. My Hero Roundtable group is organizing a program with speakers and dinners and lunches. And we could put a link later on here in case those of you who are in this greater San Francisco area might want to attend.
So my personal journey started at Los Angeles, UCLA, as a matter of fact, where I was born. And while growing up, I experienced some psychological distress, which eventually developed into depression, leading to poor academic performance, withdrawing from courses, and ultimately I met some great mentors, as I've mentioned, Phil Zimbardo being one of them, and received support in school and outside of school, which you'll see is a recommendation for our tool here that we'll be providing shortly. I graduated from USC, attended a few other universities, and then eventually wrote my book and founded the nonprofit So to help other students who may be struggling or at risk of struggling, and also just to be not just a preventive, but also a strengthening approach to mental health and overall well-being. So as we can see from both of these journeys, the psychological distress impacts all of us, either indirectly or directly. And research has shown that 75% of all psychological disorders arise by the age of 24. So this makes it imperative that we screen for psychological distress during the years of high school and college, so to prevent them from becoming severe and having substantially negative impacts on people's lives. In addition, depression and anxiety have increased due to the pandemic, and schools are overwhelmed with the number of students who need mental health and social support, and often students don't feel comfortable providing information to their colleges, and hence our tool is an anonymous questionnaire to help students, which is provided by our nonprofit. And Dr. Z will now share.
The nonprofit, which Joe has worked diligently on for a number of years to make it work so efficiently, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We offer anonymous mental health and social support tool that provides personalized feedback and supportive resources for anyone who accesses it. It's a research-informed tool, so it's not everything we do is based on the best available research. Student feedback that we've gotten in developing it is well incorporated. By providing this tool, students gain immediate access to resources that help and strengthen important areas in their lives.
So the key scales that we use in our survey includes a psychological distress scale, a social support scale, which measures our perceived support from friends and family. Furthermore, we have a scale on perceived parent support, another on mindset, and finally one on a sense of belonging. Furthermore, these scales have been all validated and they are available in multiple languages so that this can be used internationally.
So we also give feedback. Obviously, we want you to take the scale, but then we want to give you feedback. We provide immediate results and resources for each scale you take. Additional topics include self-compassion, self-efficacy, which is really important. That's what my former colleague at Stanford, Albert Bandura, promoted. Home and food insecurity. Now, this is a big problem for students who are now poor, who can't afford. It's probably more a problem for graduate students who are not living with family, and much more. The goal is supporting greater well-being and student success, and it's adaptable to each college and every country in the world.
So we'd like to walk you through our survey and also the feedback page so you can get an idea of what it looks like. So this is the first page of our survey, and you'll notice that it identifies the purpose of the questionnaire, namely to increase well-being and success in school, work, and life. The fact that it only takes 10 minutes to complete, that it's an anonymous survey and questions can be skipped and the survey ended at any time. Furthermore, how honesty and answering all questions will provide a more accurate score. And then finally, how this is not a replacement for professional help. There are also supportive numbers, both nationally and internationally, right up front so that people are able to access them without even going through the survey. And at the bottom, you'll see is our nonprofit website where you get more information and helpful resources. This is the screen of what it would look like on a computer, and on the far right side over here, of course, we can see that it is the image for what it looks like on a phone. On the bottom, it says powered by Qualtrics. Now, Qualtrics is a survey platform, highly secure, and used by academics and industry internationally. So hit next, and then we'll go through the questions section by section real quick. So what is your age? If you're a student, you could provide that age. And of course, if this is an instructor taking the questionnaire or another personnel, a parent, they could also provide their own age. Next, it asks about psychological distress, how often you experience the following feelings over the past 30 days. So there are 5 options here for frequency, how often. Nervousness, and we'll do a hypothetical answers here and we'll get results at the end. And so, how often am I nervous? Say none of the time. Hopelessness, how often do I experience hopelessness? None of the time. Restless or fidgety, a little of the time. So depressed that nothing can cheer you up? None of the time. That everything was an effort? A little of the time. Feelings of unworthiness? So none of the time. We'll hit next. And if we want to go back, we could just scroll to the bottom of either screen, the phone or the computer, and we can hit back in case we want to update or adjust any of the prior questions that we'd answered, and hit next. So these questions regard our family. So my family really tries to help me, from strongly disagree to very strongly agree. So my family really tries to help me. Strongly agree. I can talk about my problems with my family. Strongly agree. I get the emotional help and support I need from my family. My family is willing to help me make decisions. All right. So this hypothetical individual has a strong family system. In regards to friends, let's assume our hypothetical person here has very low support from their friends. So using the same question options, my friends really try to help me. Strongly disagree, very strongly disagree. I can count on my friends when things go wrong. Very strongly disagree. I have friends with whom I can share my joys and sorrows. Very strongly disagree. I can talk about my problems with my friends. Say strongly disagree. Okay. Next, these questions regard your relationship with a parent. So a parent, guardian, or a significant person in one's life. It asks the frequency of certain experiences during a typical week. So feelings of warmth from this parent, this is frequency from none of the time to all of the time. Let's go with a strong parent relationship and we'll say all the time, I feel warmth from this parent. Trust toward this parent, most of the time. Accepted by this parent, respected by this parent, support from this parent in ways that are meaningful to you. Then Do you have a second parent guardian about whom you would like to answer questions? If we would like to, then we will hit yes, and then we'll have the exact same questions provided here. Now let's answer these questions as though we have a difficult relationship or strained relationship. Feelings of warmth from this parent, none of the time. Trust toward this parent, little of the time. Accepted by this parent, none of the time. Respected by this parent, a little of the time. Support from this parent in ways that are meaningful to me, say none of the time, a little bit of the time. Okay, let's go to the next section. Now this section entails questions about a sense of belonging on campus. Now if you're not a student and you're working, instructor, and you're using this survey, this could be interpreted as sense of belonging in your working area. So sometimes I feel that I belong at my school or work setting, and sometimes I feel that I don't belong. So strongly disagree. When something bad happens, I feel that maybe I don't belong at my school. I disagree. Okay. When something good happens, I feel that I really belong at my school. Let's say moderately agree. Okay. So there's just 3 questions here for sense of belonging. Next, these questions entail plasticity of human characteristics. You have a certain amount of intelligence and you can't really do much to change it. I strongly disagree. Your intelligence is something about you that you can't change very much. Strongly disagree. You can learn new things, but you can't really change your basic intelligence. Strongly disagree. Next questions just try to get an image, an idea of where the student is, both academically and interests. So let's say I go to Stanford University. So I'll put Stanford, and I am studying psychology. I am a first-year undergraduate. You'll see that there are options for undergraduates, graduates, and high school students on the far right here. And of course, there's an option for other, where one could put in parent or instructor or counselor. What is your current term average score? So let's say these responses were from before. Let's go with it. 3.59, and then overall institutional, it's going to be, say, 3.2. There are questions about demographic information. So this person's identity, gender identity is male. They identify as American Indian, East Asian, the country they're currently in, USA. A survey that provides mental health resources would be helpful. And this last question asks, have you completed this survey before? Students do come back to take the survey, and by answering this question, it allows us to better understand the data, better help students. So let's assume the last time I took it was about a week ago. I'll hit next. And here's the results page. So what we recommend doing is either Control P and save this output as a PDF. Another way is to do Control All or Control A, copy it, Control C, and go into a new doc, a new form, and paste it there. So next is a message that again highlights that these scores are an estimate, it's not a diagnosis, and some additional resources that people can immediately access for support. We also ask for participants to provide us feedback here. You'll see the link again at the very bottom of the page. The initial topic is psychological health, and what you'll find here is that we provide key statistics, and then from this we're able to destigmatize mental illness. As you can see, mental illness, depression has been about 20% and only rising due to the pandemic. And then you'll find a score here, your result. And if we look at this chart down here, just below, we see that 4.5 is between 4 and 5, and so we could say that my psychological well-being is well, and could benefit from some mild psychological support. So this might include breathing work, or it might include meditation or other ways such as a gratitude journal. Under each section, we'll find resources. So for example, let's say someone has strong psychological health, but they do know someone who is suffering from depression. Here's a resource to help you support this individual, because those conversations can be difficult. After psychological health, we have this scale on social support. You'll see two scores here, one for family and the other one for friends. Family is a 6. So based on that, this individual is likely to benefit from mild support. Okay, so everyone can improve and strengthen all areas in their lives. So this is the result for families. The results for friends is 1.25. If you recall, the way that we answered these questions was that this individual who's taking the survey does not have a strong network of peers and friends. So this blurb here just highlights the importance of having these social support. And here are some resources that my students have brought together that we hope will hopefully be helpful to many. The following section is on relationship with parents, and so it provides a score for parent 1, perceived support from this parent, and perceived support from parent 2. Now these scores is more about how we perceive the situation than necessarily how our parents are behaving and what is actually happening. So for parent 1, we see a 3.8. This is the mean. And so 3.8, it's between 4 and 3. So 4 would be likely to benefit from some mild support. So there is room for growth. Parent 2, the way we answered questions for this insignificant individual was that they were not very supportive. And we see that 1.75 is right between 1 and 2. And so if it's about 2 rounding up, we have likely to benefit from moderate support, okay? So the same thing for each of these sections, for sense of belonging, mindset, and then resources below. There are additional resources, scales that we did not measure students on so that we could keep the survey brief, but still felt that these resources are viable, and studies show that these bits of information are beneficial. So academic engagement, here's a resource. Academic self-efficacy, self-compassion, body image, disabilities, and then of course COVID and food and home security. And then recent increases in death due to drugs. Here are the references for the surveys that we've used. And again, we hope that you provide us feedback for the tool so that we can make it even more accessible and more applicable and helpful to students. So now we'd like to invite you to try the survey yourself. You can go to thegoodstudent.org, and there on the first page, you'll find a link, a tab, to go ahead and take it. So one of our first questions is, do you recommend that colleges' mental health professionals encourage students to take the survey? And absolutely, one of our key goals is to get this survey used and integrated into every high school and college in the United States and abroad. And so one way to do this is that before a student comes in for mental health counseling or even their academic advising, that they would be able to take this questionnaire, get the results, print it out, keep it on a PDF format, and share it with their counselors, and even take it home and share it with their parents if they feel comfortable. Also, as students use this tool, they're able to keep track of and monitor their progress in each key area relevant to well-being in college and life success. Another question we have is, does the information provided in this webinar apply to vulnerable populations such as at-risk youth and those in the juvenile system?
If you're a student who has had problem with juvenile justice, it would be very important for them to have this information about your mental functioning. But Joe and I believe that what you're doing is just between the three of us, and it's up to you to tell us, please send it to my teacher, my school, my parole officer, whatever.
So the next question, Where can my friends find your survey or tool? Yeah, great question.
We're going to have it available on our website, and but as we said, if you would like us to have it sent to your psychi chapter or your mental health program at your school, then just contact Joe Dorri and we'd be happy to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have a follow-up question with, are we interested in sharing it with schools outside the US? Absolutely. And we're already in contact with France and a couple other countries. And so if you can, yes, please. We're really, really wanting to help students internationally, and as well as faculty are able to take this survey, as you could tell from Dr. Zimbardo's life journey, and his advisor.
So, what are some other resources that you provide? You could go to our website, again, thegoodstudent.org, and you could find out the other resources we have. We have the book written by me, also a curriculum, a 5-day curriculum for students addressing the psychosocial factors of college success and well-being. And if you have further questions for us, feel free to go to the website, click on the Contact Us tab on the top right, and then submit your questions, and we'll be happy to get back to you.
So Dr. Z, so we have some action steps and some that we've talked about, and your wonderful video on our website kind of really summarizes this, but could you share a bit more, kind of really emphasize these next key steps that our audience could take, please?
Yeah, we want you to use the tool and talk the results with a trusted person. Recommend it to your family, recommend it to your friends. Request the tool be offered on syllabi, college websites, and in school orientation processes. Provide feedback to us about the tool, get involved, and see our next slides.
So here are some opportunities for students. We know that you have service opportunities and ability to kind of meet those requirements through our nonprofit. So one of them is conduct research. So coordinate projects, gather participants, analyze data, and publish papers and posters. Develop content and provide feedback. We need feedback. Each one of our students, Dr. Z and I have been asking for feedback. We'd love to hear feedback from you all to be able to incorporate that and use it to make the tool even more and more impactful. And the content I have to add is the content that we've selected has been vetted by academics, students, educators, researchers. So it's really crucial that we get all stakeholders' opinions involved in this process. Manage social media and communications. You know, as Dr. Z mentioned, we're growing, and so we need more hands on deck. So there are officer roles, and we'd like you to help disseminate this tool to local and regional colleges and high schools. As you know from my experience, early symptoms arise, and so if we could get this used in multiple high schools, I'd invite you to think of one high school in particular in your area and think about reaching out to them and sharing the survey.
This is for really instructors and college staff. Use this tool in your department and throughout your college. Ideally, create a feedback page specific to your college, community, and country. That a feedback page that people can say, I took the test, it helped me in this way. I was having this problem, and it highlighted A, B, or C. Now, again, we know in psychology the way to expand any issue is by doing collaborative research. Use IRB documents are readily available from us, and we're growing. Openings include Director of Advancement, Director of Interns and Volunteers, Research Associate, and more. So those of you who are listening, if you have time in your schedule, and you'd like to join our team, and one of these openings seem interesting, please contact us as soon as possible.
Thank you, Dr. Z. So here are a few endorsements that we've gathered and some experiences of students, journalists, educators, administrators, and in particular, Phil and I would like to highlight one by Dr. Loftus, her stating that the good student is a terrific resource for all students. And Dr. Z, we got a special history here, don't we, with Beth?
Yeah, Elizabeth Loftus is a distinguished professor at University of California, Irvine, past president of the Association of Psychological Science, She won the gold medal for life achievement in the science of psychology. And she was my graduate student at Yale University many, many years ago. And I am still in touch with her. She's brilliant, as many of you know who read her research. And if you haven't read her research, look her up and check her out.
So, Dr. Z, you've invested so much, and I'd love for you to have the honor of really sending this message home to our audience.
We offer an anonymous mental health and social support tool that provides personalized feedback and supportive resources for anyone who accesses it. And it's available to support your and others' well-being and success. Hopefully, you will use them, you will share them with other people, show them to your parents, show them to your academic advisors, show them to your friends, and get everybody integrated.
And we'd like to thank many people who have helped make this possible, and you'll see the list here. So we look forward to hearing from you through our website at thegoodstudent.org, so that you could subscribe, hear more about the good work we're doing, how you could help reach out, help yourselves, and help those around you.